Just want to say a quick thank you to Anthony Griffin for becoming a member of the Kinetic Rugby League channel. If you want to become a member, just click the join button below this video and join the fantastic group of people that help support the work that I do. But with that being said, let's get on with the video. Starting with 12th, and still in 12th, I have Salford Red Devils. At the weekend, they put in what was probably their best performance of the year. They were able to list a pretty strong squad, and a similar squad in a lot of areas to the week before, so the consistency in the lineup and quality of the lineup really showed this time. Danny Richardson did a solid job with his kicking game for one. They were a little disjointed still with their attack, and sometimes the defensive line would get out of shape, but they looked so much more comfortable and confident in and out of possession overall. We've never doubted their efforts, which they still brought at the weekend, but you keep adding quality to that and more time with the same team to keep building. Salford could start to have more days like they had against Warrington, and maybe find some more wins this season. But because they've still been getting battered recently, I need to see more results and displays like this in the next few weeks to consider moving them up. So for now, Salford Red Devils stay in 12th. In 11th, and moving down one, I have Castleford Tigers. The thing is with Cass, in the last few months, they are an improved side compared to what they were in the first few weeks and months. They can now start to compete a little more through the middle, they can keep teams out for longer periods, and they have a more effective kicking game, and they can create line breaks. But it's in patches during a game. We'll get positive moments from Cass, but they can really let themselves down sometimes as well. There were a lot of times versus Huddersfield where they had repeat sets in the red zone and they didn't look like scoring at all. There was constant pressure, but it amounted to nothing. One of those areas that I mentioned though before, line breaks, are coming along more regularly. And they're being rewarded for their intent and bravery to spread the ball inside their own half. Assy has improved his overall game, and he's instigating those early moves as well. Both senior brothers have been massive recently. Sini has been reliable at fullback, and without Tex Hoy, they've actually kind of looked stronger, which is a bit weird because Tex Hoy has typically been their most effective player offensively. They do have their moments, and did have their moments against the Giants, but they also had an extra man on field for 10 minutes after just 50 seconds, and not only did they not establish any kind of momentum for a lot of that first half, they conceded points as well, and didn't really recover until half an hour had gone. But at the restart for the second half, it started to go back to how it was. So Castleford, for now, moved down one into 11th. On to 10th place, and also moving down one, I have the Catalans Dragons. What a way to confuse the entire league, by the way. Beating an improved Giants side 32-0 one week, and then just switching back to what they were before that and getting battered by Trinity the week after. It just felt like they lost every contest. And I realised when I watched Catalans, I don't know if you guys have noticed this too, it looks like they're always running in mud. With and without the ball, they look so unbelievably slow. They look really, really slow. Now, we've seen from some games this year that they can turn up, but I'm nowhere near smart enough to answer why they're in this situation that they're currently in. Do they just need to strip the game back to basics? Are they currently too basic already? Honestly, I don't know. I'd love to know what you guys think about the Catalans Dragons anyway. They do sometimes look like they're reacting rather than anticipating. There can sometimes be a bit of ball watching, waiting for things to happen. You'd imagine with the individuals that they've got in that side, they can fix it. But I just don't know if or when it's going to happen. So for right now, Catalans Dragons move down one into 10th. On to 9th place, and moving down one this week, I have Warrington Wolves. What I saw against Salford was a very lethargic performance that did lack a lot of energy at times and a lot of quality. There was too many mistakes in possession, which just killed any momentum, and a lot of penalties really allowed Salford to build pressure. Even when Warrington were up 12-8, Salford had a penalty they could have tapped or kicked into touch and gone for a try. But they went for two because they just knew, based on Warrington's ill discipline at the weekend, they would have got another penalty, which they did, and they brought it back to 12-all. I think with Sneed, Williams and Dufty having a few more weeks together, they're starting to improve on their combinations a little bit. They're starting to look a little bit more free-flowing, but that needs to be consistent over the next few weeks. Defensively, Warrington do have a long way to go, and with more changes incoming in the back line, it's going to be difficult. I do think one thing that people need to keep in mind with Warrington, though, is the number of injuries is actually ridiculous. I know Saints had to deal with a lot last year, and Wakefield especially have dealt with a lot this year as well. But Warrington, they've missed Dufty, Thulis, Wrench, King has been out, Ashton's out for the season, Williams has been out, Sneed, Leyland, Hayes for the whole season. I believe Vaughan has missed games, Fitzgibbon, Russell I think as well, Holroyd is out for a while, Philbin has missed a game or two. I believe Harrison has been out for some games as well, and of course Danny Walker is yet to return, and now Roderick Ty is out for God knows how long at this point. Wire really need consistency in their lineup, but I feel like if and when it happens, serious progress will be made. But for now, there's a lot of work for Warrington to do, and they move down 1 into 9th. On to 8th, and moving up 3, I have the Huddersfield Giants. Like I said during Castleford section, the Giants got a sin min after 50 seconds, and after that, they kept complete control. They scored points and got themselves a 12-0 lead as well during the first half. Now, they won't be happy with throwing that away towards the back end of the first half, but in the second, they looked fairly comfortable to me. Their forwards, though, have continued to be a consistent positive. Even the lads over at Super League Raw, go follow them if you haven't already, by the way, made a great point last week that Wilson hasn't been selected for the England training squad, which I think he certainly earned a spot. And the fact that he hasn't, I think, is very disappointing. But that pack for Huddersfield has been good since day one. Now that they have players returning in the backs, they've got more consistency with Flanagan at fullback, Gagai building more experience on the wing, Lolohea is looking more and more comfortable at 6 now that he's got a more typical 7 back in the side, whether that was Clune for a very short period, but now it's Frawley, who will appreciate the regular minutes and possibly getting settled somewhere new. And with more and more reps together, he can build into the squad nicely. I think for Huddersfield now, the main focus is just getting regular 80-minute performances every week. Whilst they have to climb up the table, are they setting their sights for top 6? Is 6th place so far away that each game is just being played for pride at this point and there's nothing to win or try and strive for? I think if they keep their sights on trying to aim for 6th place, they can grind out those games and upset some teams along the way. But for now, Huddersfield Giants move up 3 into 8th. Next up, 7th place. And moving down 3 this week, I have Hull FC. They still haven't won a game at home all season, which is wild considering just how different they look this season compared to last season. But at the weekend against Saints, they had little to no control in the game. They barely had any possession in the red zone in the first half and barely any possession in Saints territory. What felt like barely any possession, to be honest. We had to wait about 50 minutes for Hull to find any kind of momentum, which came from a Caesar line break, which led to a Lytton try. They were able to maintain a bit of momentum for about 20 minutes roughly, and they were actually still in that game for a while, but they weren't clean in possession. Defensively, they were okay overall, but up front, their forwards couldn't put a dent in St. Helens' line. I think some individuals are going to be massive in these next few weeks and months to get them out of trouble. Caesar, SASA, and Barron are a few that can spark change in a game, I think. They have been without Asiata and Price in recent weeks, so adjusting to life without those important pieces will be difficult, but they really need to find a way to deal with it or they're at risk of losing a playoff spot. So right now, Hull FC move down 3 into 7th. On to 6th, and moving up 1 this week, I have St. Helens. Although Hull weren't great at the weekend, this win for Saints shows that the 2 recent wins versus Salford weren't just there to make us think Saints were getting better, plus the win over Leeds a few weeks ago was really solid, but this win over Hull FC was actually quite strong as well. Now, they did only win by 7, but don't let the scoreline fool you into thinking that the gap in performance was close. Saints were in full control from start to finish. They're still lacking in attack, and that's why they didn't score as many points as they probably should have done at the weekend, and that's something they'll need to improve on going in towards the back end of the season. But defensively, they looked absolutely solid, and through the middle, excellent. Just excellent. Hull have some big forwards, but Saints didn't budge for them at all. Saints' line speed to get up to the ball carrier was great, and they'd commit multiple men into the tackle. What felt like every single time. Hull FC wanted to throw SAS at them. Well, here's Lees, Knowles, Delaney bursting out the line to get into him. And that was a regular thing from all of Saints forwards against every Hull forward. Lomax has been looking more and more comfortable back in the side, and Bai has been a really steady option for them in the halves as well. I think with another win or 2 in a row, there's a good chance of moving up even more. But for now, St. Helens move up 1 into 6th. So, on to 5th place, and moving down 2 this week, I have Wigan Warriors. They've won 2 and lost 2 in their last 4, But in those 4 games, they haven't looked convincing at all. In possession, they've really lacked a lot of flair and penetration. I think we can all point to Bevan French not being in the side as a key reason for that. But normally, even when Bevan French has played in games, Wigan can find other ways to score without him in the build-up. They don't look massively different in how they're trying to play. Perhaps they're a little slower, maybe slightly disconnected, whilst trying to get Jack Farriman up to speed with everything. Defensively, though, they are getting out of shape a little bit more in recent weeks. Their defence on the goal line has looked more vulnerable, not just towards the edges, but through the middle as well, which is a little bit concerning. Apparently at the weekend, both Miski and Marshall weren't 100%. If that's the case, and Eckersley was fine, why didn't he play for one? And is Wade not ready to go yet? I don't know. Answers that some Wigan fans could maybe answer. I'd love to know how Wigan fans would actually sum up their performances recently and just hear their thoughts on what's going on in recent weeks. But for now, Wigan Warriors move down 2 into 5th. On to 4th place, and moving up 2, I have Wakefield Trinity. Kind of going into what I said in Catalan section, Wakefield just seemed to win every contest at the weekend. It feels to me with Wakefield, they have no trouble playing in a structure, that's fine. But when a player needs to win a contest, they'll win it quite often. Or when they need to play off the cuff, they need to play some ad-lib rugby. Everyone's locked in, everyone's switched on and moving around to make themselves available. Lino is still having to adjust to a new halves partner fairly regularly. Since he's so important to the kicking game and the attacking plays, he's improved as a player as the year's gone on. And he isn't bound to needing a certain player in the halves. I think Wakefield will need some stability later in the year. With playoffs coming up, having some consistency in the lineup will be huge for them. But so far, they've done a great job adjusting to whatever they need in the backs and the forwards. They keep playing the same way, and it works. Now, I didn't watch the Championship last year, and I don't watch the Championship, so I had no idea what starting lineup Wakey fans were expecting going into this season. But as the season's gone on, I couldn't even tell you what their starting lineup should be now, because whoever is available just turns up on the day and does the job. It doesn't feel to me like they're still waiting on getting a proper first team together, because it's like they don't really need one. But for me, Wakefield Trinity move up 2 into 4th. But on to 3rd place now, and moving back into the top 3 for the first time since round 4. And I know some people won't forgive me for that, but moving up 2 this week, I have Leigh Leopards. I think when Leigh are at their best, it's usually because there's an element of chaos in the game. I think they thrive on it. Whether it be a big occasion and the intensity of the game increases, maybe it gets a bit scrappy, maybe there's a lot of mistakes or it's very back and forth. I think Leigh thrive off those games because it plays into their nature as a team. Their forwards have been doing a great job up front in the last few months for a start. And in recent weeks, Lamb has been playing some of his best rugby of the season. O'Brien being back in helps to maintain structure and stability. But having McNamara coming off the bench in games is a solid move, to be honest. He's looked exciting in the few games he's started in the halves, but you give him confidence by keeping him in the squad, injecting him into the game. He can take on the kicking if needed, but he's got a decent run game as well and isn't afraid to take on the line. I'm loving the speed that Leigh's playing with at the moment, and 2 players I want to give a mention to are Niu and Hanley. Niu has been a quality addition. He plays with so much effort and aggression. His carries are sometimes as good as, if not better than, a lot of forwards in this league. And Hanley has been such a reliable defender this season. He's faced either quick attack or attacking players, but he's done such a good job diffusing situations. He's been in a lot of 1v1 situations, but he's getting players wrapped up on first contact. I think with Leigh's strength through the middle, pace in attack and quality out wide, I honestly think they have the potential to win the grand final this year. Now, we do need to see how they get on against Hull KR this week, and I think they need to find a bit more consistency in their defence especially. But for now, Leigh Leopards will move up 2 into 3rd. So, on to 2nd place. What to do, hey? What to do? In 2nd, and still in 2nd, I have Leeds Rhinos. Their forwards at the weekend were excellent. Absolutely excellent. They had a lot of work to do, and they did that work extremely well. It was going to be difficult getting quick play the balls and offloads because Hull KR do such a good job of reducing those for teams. but Leeds got a good chunk of post-contact meters in there that just kept adding up, because they could have been pinned back or lost the battle in the middle, but those extra meters were huge over the course of 80 minutes. And one thing I loved about their game as well was the intent to go at Hull KR. Not getting stuck in a simple back and forth for 80 minutes. When it demanded a back and forth game, they were there for the challenge, but they weren't afraid to spread the ball. They made plenty of mistakes along the way when they tried, but not only did they back themselves to have another go and not give up on it, they backed themselves up defensively, because sometimes they'd either give away a penalty or they'd make that mistake shifting the ball in the midfield and turn over the ball in the midfield, but they backed themselves up on the goal line and they were very, very solid. They held a great attacking side to just 8 points, which included just one try, which is a huge turnaround from the 30 points conceded the week before. If people didn't take Leeds seriously before this, they should do now. But for now, Leeds Rhinos will stay in second. So that means, in first place and still in first, I have Hull Kingston Rovers. 2 reasons why they haven't moved down is because their performances over recent weeks have still been dominant on plenty of occasions, and their performance against Leeds at the weekend was still very, very close in terms of quality. If they were dominated by Leeds, then I could maybe consider moving them down, but I'd need to see more evidence in the next few weeks to consider dropping them down. They had to deal with Mikey Lewis going off in the first half, and you could tell they weren't their usual selves sometimes. We all know they like to finish sets by going left to Lewis, kicking towards the back left, but they adjusted fairly well in that area, letting Artur Morg take on the kicking responsibilities in his absence. In attack, there was a little bit less of a run threat without Mikey Lewis as well, but they got stuck in with their forwards up front and made it a tough challenge for Leeds. KR still had a lot of opportunities though. They were ended by forward passes, all of which I think were fair calls in my opinion. Regarding the potential Leeds forward pass, by the way, in the build-up to their match-winning try, because I know people might have questions about that. The pass from Hanley to Miller doesn't look great, and I am actually on the fence as to whether it's forward or if momentum makes it look forward. I'm not entirely sure. But Hull KR had a lot thrown at them in the second half especially, and without Lewis, it felt like they just constantly had to go punch for punch with Leeds through the middle to keep going and to maintain presence, which they did very, very well. Maybe there's a chance they move down next week, depending on performance from both KR and Leeds, but KR have still been a quality side for months, and for now, they will stay in first. So there you have my latest Super League power rankings. As always, if you've got your own list or you have any disagreements, let me know in the comment section down below. But as always, if you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like. It does help to get the video out there to more people. Subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with more Kinetic Rugby League content. If you'd like to become a member, you can do by clicking the join button below this video. But that's going to be it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.